Hey guys, alright, last time I left off, I explained a little bit after surgery of how I felt and everything. Today I'm going to talk about when I had chemo and partially radiation. The surgery was in June. July, they did the biopsies also when I had the surgery. So July, I got results, and five out of the 8 lymph nodes that they had biopsied, just in case, came out positive for cancerous for the tumor. So they were gonna start me on a chemotherapy regimen, FOLFOX 5-AVU regimen. So what it consisted of was every Monday I will go into the clinic, I'll get blood drawn. I'll start at 7 in the morning, get blood drawn. That'll take about 15-20 minutes. I'll eat breakfast, and then once 9 o'clock hit, I'll go into the infusion center. So the infusion center, they'll call me at 9:20. From 9:20 all the way to 11:30, I was getting the first batch of chemo, and then I'll get hooked up to a little, it's kind of like a little cylinder about this big. It was a plastic one, and inside of it had a big balloon filled with liquid, which was the next part of the chemo. And that I'll stay continued on, hooked on, and I had a little fanny pack, and I'll go home. So the rest of the day Monday, all day Tuesday, and Wednesday morning around 10-11 they'll finish. So I'll go back to the hospital and get everything removed, and then I'll be free for a week and a half. So the rest of the week, and then another week, and then I'll start all over again. So I was doing it every other week. Whenever I was going through that, that was basically my routine. Be there at 7 in the morning, labs at 7:30, chemo at 9, and it was the same people over and over again. So we kind of grew together. We saw each other's progress. We saw how everybody did. And it was nice because, I mean, we were a group, kind of like, I want this to be. We were a group. We talked to each other. We helped each other out. We saw how everybody was doing, and if somebody needed help, any sort of thing, we talked to one another. So we communicated. I was doing this from August all the way to February. I spent my birthday there. I bought cake for all the nurses. I gave out to whoever wanted cake to kind of cheer everybody up, because the infusion centers, there's basically, you wait, you go. The one I went to is basically a big old room which had dividing curtains, and each curtain had a seat, a TV, and everything for that person to be there comfortably. They had a restroom if you needed to go, just take the machine with you, go to the restroom, come back. And these restrooms were basically just for patients, because as we're getting chemo, our body's taking it out when you pee, when you secrete, anything. And they didn't want any cross-contamination between healthy people and us, because of course they'll get sick. But some of the things that were going on when I was getting chemo was I had a real big sensitivity to cold items, including drinking. Whenever the first week, nothing cool, because I mean, your body's just getting, it's just starting off. Once you go through a couple of times, it started developing the symptoms. So I couldn't touch anything cold because it'll burn my fingers. It'll leave a brown mark. I couldn't drink anything cold because it was like, if it was extremely hot, it'll burn my mouth. I had to spit it out right away. So I had to drink, at first it was room temperature water, and then I couldn't even do that. I had to drink warm, I had to heat up the water, drink it warm. Here in Texas it's hot. I hated that. Some of the things that I did to kind of help me with coping, because I never had nausea, was, I mean, anytime I would eat something, I had gone to Walmart and I bought these, in the camping section, they had these utensils, these plastic utensils that, I would take with me anytime I wanted to go eat somewhere, or even here at home. Reason being is because I had learned that a lot of the dishing soap or the chemicals that restaurants use to wash their utensils, that's what gives you nausea. That's what gives you all those little side effects, some of the side effects. So what I would do is I'll wash them here with the soap that I knew and I trusted that didn't do anything to me. I'll clean them, I'll take them with me, and it was a pretty cool set. I can't find it, but if I do, I'll show it to y'all. It was a pretty cool set. It was a spork and a knife, but the spork had a little insert where you can insert the knife, so it would just be one thing instead of two. And I'll eat with those, and thankfully I never had nausea. I did though 1 week had a blockage. Because having ostomy, um, I didn't have enough output. I ate once, and the chemo, the medicine, affected me in an odd way that it didn't allow my stomach to digest everything. So everything was just like slowed down, and it lasted a week. Now again, like I said before, I'm Hispanic, I'm male, I'm one of those, I don't like the doctor, this and that. I left it a week. I knew that I had to eat something, so I'll eat something small, I'll drink liquids, but I saw that the output on my ostomy wasn't what I had input in. And about a week later, I was like, you know what, I gotta go to the doctor. I went, emergency, I got in trouble, I got a lecture, I was told, don't be Superman, get everything done, if you feel this, feel that, right now isn't the time to be, I'm tough. So I was put into the hospital, IV, so I can, get hydrated, because I was very dehydrated. Apparently the blockage had, on its own gone away. But yeah, that's just one of the hiccups that I had with it. I did lose a lot of weight. Again, since it was the same people and over again. When I went back to chemo the next time, all the people that, the regulars, sorry for saying it that way, it sounds bad, but the regulars, they told me, you look like shit. Are you okay? Everything's fine. And I explained to them, I told them, and they're like, yeah, no, don't do that. The only other time I ever had anything happen was when I got the JP drain taken out. It's a little small tube that was sticking out to that little pump, but inside, it's a small tube, but inside it was about this big in diameter, so it was a lot bigger. The opening that I had through my stomach, well, where it was in, wasn't that big. So whenever I got taken it out, it was just basically take a breath and pulled it. Oh, that was horrible. I kind of went into somewhat shock, so I didn't feel anything. I was perfectly fine. I went to work. At work, I got a fever. I was feeling like crap, and straight from there I went to the hospital again, because again, like they told me, if you get any fever, anything like that, go to the hospital. Go straight to them, because it might be something bad. What affected me was that little drain. I spent the weekend in the hospital. It was about Christmas weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It was like the 23rd when I got released. It was a Sunday. But I mean, through the chemo treatments, I didn't have much problems. I was riding the bus to get to the hospital, because they didn't want me to drive. So I was like, okay, so I'll drive the bus. I'll take the bus. I'll take 2 buses to get there, and I'll take 2 buses to come back. I thankfully didn't have any problems. I had my full beard, I had my hair. It did thin out, I will say that, but I never lost it like a lot of people do. Every treatment is different, every cancer is different, every person is different. So what works for me may not work for you, may not work for the next person. You may have mild symptoms, I have no not symptoms. You may have no side effects, I may have mild ones, the other person is going to have severe ones. Everybody's different. But what I would say motivated me and kept me up was that at the time being, my son was about a year. So the combination of that, my sister's quinceañera, like I mentioned before, I wanted to be here for my sister's party. I wanted to be here for my son's life. I had that positive motivation. Now with radiation, it was a simple, just go lie down. Honestly, the wait was longer than the treatment for radiation. That I will say that the skin around my hips was getting really irritated. Sometimes it came, like after a couple of sessions, it was a little irritating. I couldn't sit down well. I had to put my leg across. It cooled down afterwards. They prescribed some creams, things like that, to help you with the irritation. You can take them, you cannot take them. I mean, it really is just because it's being radiated. That's the reason why it's, irritated. But with radiation, I didn't have much of a problem. And again, it was in and out. The longest thing was the wait. Chemo was the one that was the longest. And again, I didn't have much complications other than the ones that I, couldn't eat anything. Then I had I had the blockage, and the second time was towards the end whenever they removed the JP drain. But it was, the complications became because of the JP drain, not because of the chemo. But yeah, like, no complications, just the cold things. I mean, I kept an active life. I was mountain biking. I was walking around. Like I mentioned, I was in the bus most of the time. So that was my main sort of transportation. But yeah, I just kept, a guideline of it. If with a week that I had chemo, I wouldn't go out. I wouldn't do anything. I try to stay at home as much as possible. I would drink water. I would try to stay away from fatty foods, greasy foods, not because of the chemo, but because my ostomy, it pushed out anything greasy, so I will feel the difference between the output of it. The week after I had chemo, I was going back to work. I was working not heavy hours. I wasn't lifting anything heavy. I wasn't doing anything strenuous, but I would go back to work. And, I would feel the difference of things. And then as soon as I was getting better, I was back in chemo, so I was feeling back to the way I was before. So it was like an ongoing cycle for the time being. I did miss one treatment because it was a miscommunication between my doctor and I, but they just redid it. I just put it towards the end of the regimen. So, like, say for instance, I missed it 1 week of December. Well, towards the end, they just elongated 1 more week. Thankfully, all my nurses and everything, they were very professional. They were very helpful. The one thing I wasn't getting used to was I had a port put in here, and then you could feel the line that would go into my in here, and just getting poked in the chest is different than being poked in your arms or your hands or your feet or getting an injection anywhere else. It's weird. I don't know, it makes you anxious because the port it's a little block, and then just had the needle sticking out. So all they did was they felt the little connection, 1 2 3, poke. It was weird. The taking out was simple because it just flip the switch, and then the needle will retract, so it just come out straight out. Now I did that for about 6.5 months. I was taken off. And then towards around June of the following year, almost a year after the surgery, I was told I was cancer free. But again, I kind of didn't feel the difference because I was going out the week that I didn't have chemo. I was still going out again. I was active. I was moving around. I was getting used to my ostomy bag. I was carrying, the supplies everywhere just in case. I was working, so it kind of never stopped me. But I want to say that the reason why it didn't stop me and why I never looked sick was because, like I mentioned before, I had my son to look forward to and my sister's party. And I try to keep a positive mentality. I know it's tough. It's really tough. It's really tough. Trust me. Like I mentioned before, at the beginning of after my surgery, I had a hard time finding positivity in the choices that I made of getting the surgery. But once I got used to it, accustomed to it, it became a lot easier. And I was seeing my son. I was having fun times with him. I did go through some little rough patches with his mom, but I was able to overcome them and stay positive and happy for him. He's 8 now, so he's been a huge part of it. Again, a lot of people make it a cliche of, oh, for my kids, because of my kids, I'm alive. And I can actually say, because of my son, I'm alive. He's the biggest inspiration I've had, and the biggest motivation as well. And that's one of the things that you have to look to. My treatment was different. My reactions were different. But the one thing I could say that could stay the same between you and myself, or anybody that's watching this that's having a hard time, is the motivation, the positivity. Try to find something positive to look towards you, and that should help you feel better. Drink juices, eat plenty of vegetables, fruits. Yes, don't deprive yourself of the small things. Have something, greasy here and there. Don't just be like, no, because it's the motivation factor. It's well, I have to limit myself, and then you just go on downhill from there. stay positive of it. Enjoy the little things in life. Take time to take a breath, breathe, look around you, and enjoy the scenery. Keep that to motivate you to be able to do it better, to beat this. Yes, there's people that have, not failed, but people that have passed away, people that have, sadly the disease was greater than the person. But a lot of the times is because ourselves, we right away we think of, oh, I have cancer, I'm gonna die, that's it, I'm death, that's my death sentence. And it doesn't have to be a death sentence. It's a path. It's just a way of life. I mean, I've gone through it, and thankfully when I have CT scans, I've met people that, talking to them a little bit, they start confiding me that their doctors have told them that they need a bag, that this and that, and I tell them, hey, I have one. And a lot of them, they don't believe me until I show them, because it's under my clothes, it's internal, so to speak, so nobody really notices it. If you were to cross me, if we were to cross paths in the real life, I have a full beard, hair, and you can't see no markings on my arms, my face, my body, so you would never believe that I had cancer. And I had a hard time having people believe me that. Even now, I still kind of do, that I used to have cancer. But I had it. People are different, but try to stay as motivated as possible. If any little thing goes wrong, get help right away. Don't try to fight it off and be a tough guy. No, at this point, your body's not as strong as it used to be, so it needs help. And get it, because you need to be here. People need you. You need to show people different things. You need to show people the motivation that you have to thrive, because you got this. If you guys have any questions, want something me to talk about, let me know. Now, I am thinking about making another video of the ostomy bags, and a little bit more later on the line. I'm not making much of videos of the Mustang, because again, it's in the shop. I can't wait to get it back, but it's still in the shop, so I can't do anything with it yet. I still have the center console, and I'm dying to put it in the car. I really am. But yeah, if anything, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try to talk about it.